Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media, and we are pleased to have a regular guest with us here. He is an iconic figure in the world of literacy, not just in San Diego, but through the state and some far reaches of this country, too. And he's Jose Cruz. He's the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy. And full disclosure, an honor to be an advisory board member of the council. And I think I've known Jose ever since the council was formed in 1986.
Correct. Yep.
How you doing,
Good.
Jose?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
Good. An honor to have as my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. They are celebrating their 20th anniversary in 2024, and I know you're up to it with a whole bunch of cool things coming up.
So many things coming up, yeah. We're excited to be celebrating all year long, so hopefully we'll see some folks at our events.
Absolutely. Maybe some of the ones that come on the show.
Maybe these folks
maybe
here
the
at
ones
this
across
table.
Absolutely. Jose, we just committed you to some events down
I
in 2024.
brought my calendar. Just let me know.
Nice.
Okay, absolutely. We'll do that. Talk
Anything
about
for the cause.
100%. Well, writers, literacy, are you kidding me?
Hand
Shoulder
in hand.
to shoulder, hand in hand on that. Talk about the state of literacy in San Diego County and maybe compare it to where it is in California and across the country.
Sure. Well, right now, the number that we're pushing, because you overwhelm people with too much information, and we have a lot of it.
Sure.
But 34% of our fourth graders attending school in the San Diego Unified School District, which is the second biggest district in the state, do not read at a basic level. They're not meeting that reading standard.
Wow.
We should all be alarmed. We're still befuddled why there's not more outrage, why this caused this situation that we have hasn't been moved to a position of greater prominence and urgency in the community, and not just San Diego, statewide, nationally. The numbers are similar. I mean, of course, they vary. In terms of how San Diego compares to the rest of California,
Right.
We're pretty much average for national statistics. When you look at California's agricultural communities, Imperial Valley, Salinas, and Central Valley, the numbers go up because you're looking at families who have a history of being agricultural people. So education not necessarily being a priority because families had the kind of employment they were employed in the fields, and hopefully not stereotyping, but certainly understanding industry and the economy and such. So you see the numbers go up. Also in California, we are the state where a lot of immigrants and refugees come. So when you look at the percentage of individuals age 5 and over who do not speak English as a first language or who speak a language other than English at home, our number is twice the national. So the national is about 21%, and California is about 44%.
Interesting.
It's not bad to have two languages, but the likelihood is a person might not know English real well, and then that, of course, affects literacy. Literacy is getting meaning from print, and then literacy is about functionality, and to function in the U.S. and California and San Diego, et cetera, the primary language is English, right? So now you're a little bit at a disadvantage because English might not be the language you most communicate in.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, I know you saw on Jose's list over here something that just jumped out at you.
Yeah.
And that is the method of teaching reading.
Yeah, I was curious about this. I don't want to skew my facts and everything, but I binged this podcast called Sold a Story, about how kids are reading these days and how it may differ a little bit than the way, maybe I learned to read or you learned to read and things like that. And it was fascinating to me. So can you talk a little bit about that? Has it changed over the years from what you've seen? Is it effective? Just can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. If you go back, I'll tell a story.
Please do.
When I was in college, I had a class called Reading Methods, and I didn't learn a whole lot, but I had to do a book report. And I checked out a book, and the book was called, I got the book.
Yeah.
Nobody else did a report on this book. It was called Why Johnny Can't Read. Mm-hmm. And this was a book by Rudolf Flesch, who talked about how English is 85% consistent in terms of phonics, phonetically. Mm-hmm. And that if you want, you should stay with that method of teaching reading because you still have that 85%. And then you could teach irregular spellings, et cetera, another 15%. Sure. And he said, the reason we're struggling, and this book was written a long time ago.
Right.
The reason we're struggling is that we pulled back from providing phonics-based instruction.
Yes.
That's what I think what they call a structured program. And we're paying for it. And we're not preparing our teachers. And, let's also just be really, really careful about not blaming our schools or our educators.
Right.
They're doing what we're telling them to do, but they're using, many of them, methods of teaching reading that are not evidence-based, are not producing or are likely to produce the kind of results that we want to see for our young people. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of a movement on right now. You hear things called the science of reading is a thing right now. The Reading League, et cetera, and educators, people from all over who are in this conversation, national conversation that's been going on about maybe 4 or 5 years long now, maybe longer, about the best ways to teach reading and really looking at something that's a bit more, that we are sure has more phonics in it, that it's not just what we call whole language, et cetera, or balanced reading, et cetera. I mean, there's different ways that these things are being packaged, but just making sure that we are doing the things that are going to help our children succeed when they're being taught to read, either at home or at school. And it's most likely it's not happening at home. There are a lot of things that can happen at home, and that's another thing we need to have a conversation about, what can be taking place at home, because our teachers don't get our kids until they're age 4, 5, 6, and then we expect them to perform miracles.
Sure.
And so there's a whole other conversation that has to happen there.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that, we're chatting with Jose Cruz. He's the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, now the nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, who are doing great things for 6 decades, joined by Kristen Fogel, my co-host, the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc., and obviously with Kristen's background, writing, reading, go hand in hand. As you know, Jose, I spent 11 and a half years at San Diego Unified and happened to be at one point the president of the Greater San Diego Reading Association, working with all these teachers that forgot more about reading instruction than they'll probably ever know. But that being said, we were caught in the wave of going from teaching reading, methods and teaching key details, main idea, swept up with whole language. In 1987, there was a big shift. And then, of course, in typical in education, and I tease my educator friends on this, is that we don't do things that are sort of in the middle. It's going to be over here or it's over there.
Right.
And but we just come in the middle. But I remember when this came out, Bill Honig was the state superintendent of schools, and it was a huge shift to, all right, forget this. We're going to teach the classics. We're going to do it. Don't worry about reading instruction. If it's good, rich reading, they'll learn it. Of course, we know better than that, and then that thing got thrown out pretty quickly when the reading scores went down to Zippo because you weren't teaching reading. But the problem is whole language is pretty good. And, I know this, having worked in newspaper and education quite a bit and working with the newspaper in that area. When we were younger, and Kristen's about at least 7 decades younger than us, Jose. Maybe I should speak for myself.
I wish.
Okay. We had those dreaded vocabulary tests in elementary school. None of it was tied to what we were learning. Memorize this and get the answer, and then the next day you won't even know what the heck the word is. The good thing about whole language was they taught all those concepts within the reading. So when you were reading My Brother Sam is Dead, or you're reading The Grapes of Wrath, or you're reading whatever, teach the vocabulary in the reading, okay? Because that makes it meaningful in that aspect of it. Anyway, there's so many different philosophies when it comes down, to all of this. But Jose, it's something that you and I talk about all the time. You can talk all you want about reading method and strategies and phonics and phonology and all that. If the kids don't have access to books to read, ball game over.
It's It's a bad start coming out the gate. If a child does not have books at home, they're not being read to, language, growth, et cetera, vocabulary, acquisition, and a number of other things, food, clothing, shelter, right? Addressing chronic illnesses, just, a healthy home environment, all of those things. But yes, one of the real basics, one of the things that you can do to help a child prepare for school to emerge as a reader is to read to that child. And,
and something that's happened recently, somewhat recently, with the council is you've been giving out thousands and thousands of books over the last. That's not why you got into the field. You weren't a big book distribution organization, but that's what's happened in the last 5-6 years or so.
The last 4 years, and it was because of COVID, and a good response to what was happening because our school children were. The social distancing was in place, online learning, and then there was this backlog of books from these publishing companies. In a 3-year period, I never imagined we would do this.
Exactly.
We gave away 350,000 brand new books, children's books, and distributed all of them. I almost killed myself driving a flatbed truck, 7 tons of books.
Gosh.
Me going down the freeway with a flatbed and 7 tons of books. I finally handed that over. The San Diego County Library stepped in and made sure I didn't do dumb things. But yeah, and so that was a great resource acquisition for our community. We have a hard time saying no, and I'm glad that we did this and that everybody helped us.
And Jose, one of the things we talked about when we used to do our Union Tribune, Dr. Seuss Race for Literacy, many, many years, and Council on Literacy, who was the beneficiary, the kids, everyone who participated in that race, especially in the Kids Magic Mile, would get a book. And you've said this long, and it's so true. We never take it for granted. That might have been the kids' first book, okay? And it's their book. It's not their brother's book. It's not the hand-me-down book. It's their book. And talk about how important that is.
Well, first of all, it's true. And if you haven't had the experience of seeing a child confused that somebody has given them a book that they're not leaving at school, that they don't have to bring back to the library, it makes them cry. It makes you cry. My goodness. And
true.
Yeah. And so we have to train them. Tell your mom and dad, this is your book. Don't bring it back. Write your name in it. Read it. Trade it. Whatever you want to do. And they're like, no way. No way. And so we should really be concerned. Every child should have at least one book. And I talk to people who say, look, that one book changed my life.
Yeah.
I still have that book, whatever, that book might be. And so we certainly want to see more of that.
Well, and it's no different. We'll touch that base as we go back from break. But, Kristen and I have interviewed enough people over a short 6 months here in my 18 years that never is lost on us how many kids in San Diego County have never been to the beach or they've never been to the mountains or they've never been to a lake or a Padres game or whatever. Never lose fact that there's some kids out there, and there's a lot of kids out there who've never had their own book.
It's almost like we're living in two worlds.
Yeah.
There's the people who donate their books. They have more books. They don't even know what to do with them.
That's right.
And then we move them to places where there aren't any.
Right. Well, we'll continue that conversation. I know Kristen's going to ask some more questions regarding reading and so forth, and books and literacy. And we always save time, as you know, Jose. What our listeners can do to support your efforts. We're going to be right back with Jose Cruz, the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for more than 6 decades. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc., celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union Broadcasting in these very cool Mission Fed studios in Scripps Ranch. Mission Fed doing great things for San Diegans for more than 6 decades, joined by Jose Cruz, the CEO of the San Diego Council on Literacy. I'm joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Kristen?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this next question. I'm going to try to parcel them all down in my brain. You know, I want to go back to what you were saying, Drew, about there are kids in San Diego County that haven't seen a beach, a river, haven't, done several things. And I think it ties in maybe to this creating a culture of reading that's, here on your notes. And part of me is like, okay, great. I have a certain degree of privilege. I can create a culture of reading. That is pretty easy to do. How do you do that with these kids that haven't seen the beach, haven't gone to, because their parents are forced to work more than ever,
That's right.
Just the impossibility of living in San Diego. As an old millennial, I'm always screaming this, like it's just impossible right now. How do you create a culture of reading in homes like this where people are having to work multiple jobs, where they can't afford books, things like that?
Yeah, and I would start with the messaging. I mean, I don't care if you're on Facebook or you turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, we're hyping.
Yeah.
And we're hyping products, services, a number of things. How strongly are we hyping reading? How strongly are we bombarding our children and our parents with messaging about the importance of reading and the things that they can be doing? I think percentage-wise, probably not very much. And that if we as a nation believe in the power of reading, and I know that we do, we need to start communicating that way. So I think the establishing the culture or providing messaging that tells our children and everyone else, we think this is important, and we're investing in that. We're going to keep bombarding you with this information. So right? We understand. I look at what's happened with fast food. When I was a kid, Jack in the Box. Sorry if that's a commercial.
No,
that was like, okay. There were a few.
They'll be a sponsor now.
Right. That was a rare treat in my family, and now people expect fast food. 3 meals a day.
Right.
All right. I mean, there's a lot of that. I'm not saying everybody, never. But so that happened. Why not more along the lines of that for reading and providing that messaging and instilling that in all of our families and in corporate San Diego and such, so that we do actually see a response to what's happening out there. So that's, in my mind, when I think of the culture of reading, I think it's, first of all, on a leadership level, establishing this as a priority and communicating it and continuing to do that until we start seeing more resources, because that's really, one of the big issues here, the resource gap, that respond to what's taking place in some of our communities, some of our families.
Well, and we've talked about this too, Jose. I mean, some of the compelling stories that come out of what you folks do, John Kokorin, of course, the teacher that couldn't read, which is a fascinating story. And then, of course, Maria Gonzalez, who I happened to see at your event, and so forth. That was featured in some of the ads for the Race for Literacy. Those are real stories. And when you think about fact that it is such an economic issue that if you can't read in the 21st century, actually any century, but especially the 21st, the gap is going to get wider so fast. And that is very dangerous. and that aspect of it. We talk about this all the time. And just literally, but you know what? You got to do what you folks do at the Council on Literacy. I don't care how many times you say it, you got to hammer it home every day, 365, 24/7. But, you know, because no one's going to say literacy is not important. Okay,
right.
No one's going to say that.
Correct.
But they don't speak necessarily with their volunteerism as much as they should, or with their money. Let's talk about volunteers. How critical is that to you and to your literacy providers?
Well, we all saw a drop off on volunteers during COVID, and they're coming back, and the need is still there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we need more of them. Even the learners fell off, and so that COVID really hurt us. Really hurt us. It hurt everybody. And so, we're making a comeback with that, and so there's different ways though people can volunteer. So you don't have to tutor a child or tutor an adult or read to kids. I mean, there's other things, doing book drives, for example, or being an advocate, making a donation to a literacy program or to the San Diego Council on Literacy. All of these things, these services need to be sustained, and that happens through community contributions. So there's different, right? And I think making donations is a way of volunteering. But certainly we, on a more traditional level, we still need the tutors out there.
Yeah, without question. Kristen?
Yeah. I'm curious about this Imagination Library program. So I want to make sure before you go that we discuss that.
Yeah, this is Dolly Parton's, the Dollywood Foundation's program, Imagination Library. A child age 0 to 5 can receive a book in the mail monthly for a year for just $26. And now we have match money from the state of California, so that so those donations are being doubled up. And when I think about it, $26 a book a month for a year for a child. That's a pretty good deal. I can't send a toothbrush in the mail for less than $7.
Yes.
Do they base it on age?
Yeah, I mean, once that child turns age 5, they're too old. So we want
poor Declan.
Yeah, right.
My son.
But they can do it every year up till 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
So okay.
Yeah, and let me say this too, because of the state's grant money is $68 million for California. A good thing is happening, and a bad thing is happening. The bad thing that's happening is actually a good thing. So let me go explain. One is that we have match money. 2 is that in addition to the match money, we have a higher awareness about this program. So now the registrations have gone up. And people ask me, so why do you need money for this? Dolly Parton's paying for it. No, she's not.
Yeah. So
this is an expense for the San Diego Council on Literacy. Right. So we need people to donate to the Imagination Library program because the volume has gone up. And right now it's a little bit of a tightrope for us. If we can't afford this program right now, we have about 950 children signed up.
Wow.
We want a lot more than that.
Sure.
Right.
We'll have to shut the program down. We'll have to, in essence, what will happen is you can't afford to pay for the books, so we're not going to send books to these families.
Right.
We're doing everything that we can, but we need more people to know that here's a way, a modest donation that they can contribute to a child who typically wouldn't have a book. And we do target low-income communities. We'd love to open up all zip codes. Right now, we're doing what we can in communities in need, but we'd love to open them all up, and it's just a matter of how much we can afford to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Jose, any events coming up for you guys or any projects?
Well, let's see. March 2nd is Read Across America Day, right? And that's Dr. Seuss's birthday also. So that's something that's done through the National Education. Is it NEA? What's NEA?
Yeah, National Education Association.
Yeah. And celebrated in a lot of our schools. So that's the next big one coming up. We're working on the Financial Literacy Superheroes competition.
Oh, good.
And then we had a really successful San Diego Council on Literacy photo competition. That's pretty awesome. Well, it's the second year we're really impressed with the entries. People really like participating. There aren't a lot of prizes. We'll work on that. But certainly what we say is happening every day is people are calling, getting help, being tutored. And people are tutoring, instructions happening. 100,000 residents in San Diego County benefit from the literacy services provided by our 34 affiliated programs.
That's great. If somebody wants to get involved, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to our website, literacysandiego.org, literacysandiego.org. You can call 888-850-7323. People still use that. And yeah, we'd be happy to hear from them and point them in the right direction. And then my email address, is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Cruz, the letter J, CRUZ, @literacysandiego.org.
Well, Jose, it's always a pleasure having you on, and appreciate all the great content. I don't think we've done this in a while, or maybe never. Why don't next time you come on, bring in a learner. Bring in maybe a tutor and a learner, somebody who tutored this person, and they've done well if they're willing to do that. What do you think?
I love it. And we used to do more of that.
Right.
Let's make sure we make that happen.
We will. I mean, because there's really the street cred of why you do these things, and you've turned this person's life around and all that business. Good seeing you, Kristen. Thank you so much for another great co-hosting, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We've been doing this for 18 years, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. For 6 decades, they've been raising the bar and doing great things for San Diegans in this county. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.